Good morning. Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm super excited to be here with you to share this video. It's been a little while, so I'm excited to be back to talk with you guys about travel. The topic I'm going to be covering today is one that is near and dear to my heart. I'm going to be talking about solo travel, solo trips, and basically traveling on your own. And for me, this is really was the jumping off point that made it possible for me to take a lot of travel and to do more travel, was being willing to go on my own. I had a lot of friends and partner that I wanted to take trips with, but waiting for them to be ready when I was ready was going to hold me back. And so by being willing to go on my own, it really opened the door for me to be able to do a lot more. And these trips are also really important to me because they had a transformational aspect in my life, where my first trip that I ever took abroad was on my own. And the trip I took in 2013 when I did kind of like a round the world trip, I did that by myself as well. I went to Morocco and Turkey and Argentina and Panama, and the experience I had on that trip was really life-changing for me. One thing that was really huge was I've had a really hard time asking for help and being vulnerable with people. And when you're on your own and you don't have, friends or family or anybody to rely on, you have to be open with the people that are around you. And so I got really sick at the beginning of my trip, and I had to ask for help. And I relied on people that I'd only known for 2 or 3 days. They became my lifeline. They took amazing care of me. And I formed a really amazing connection with those people. I still keep in touch with some of them even to this day. So the growth that I experienced through that was huge. I've also, through the trips, it's built my confidence. Being able to navigate through the world on your own is a really it's a really incredible challenge. It calls on you to do something that is really incredible, and it makes you feel really great about yourself on the other side of that, when you realize that you can get through things on your own. And I see a lot of women who want to do more. They may want to travel, but they struggle because they feel like they have to check off a bunch of boxes before they'll give themselves the permission to do that. They have to have X, Y, and Z before they'll say that they or willing to take that step. And so I want you to know that there's no one right way to do things. The way that's right is the way that makes you happy. So I want to talk about solo travel to see if this is something for you, if it's right for you. I can give you my firsthand experience of what it's been like for me, and you can make a decision if it's right for you. So I have some notes here. We're going to be talking about solo travel. I'm going to go over kind of some of the myths or concerns that a lot of people have about taking trips on their own. And if there's any that I don't cover that you'd be interested in, when I get to the end, feel free to drop a comment and ask any questions, and I'll follow up with you after to answer any questions you have. But I'll go through my list. The first thing is you will be lonely. I hear this a lot. It's like, isn't it really, really lonely when you're by yourself? And I totally understand that, because we spend most of our time with people. We're always with friends or family, and if you're used to traveling with your crew, then it's a big change to do that on your own. And then the really nice thing about traveling solo is that you don't necessarily have to be alone throughout your entire trip. There's lots of opportunities for you to interact with other people, whether that's local people that you meet, or if you stayed at a hostel or an Airbnb, to interact with your hosts or other travelers, That's been one of the main ways that I met other people. I've also, when I was in Brazil, I saw one of my old classmates from college was also in Brazil on Facebook, and so we met up and hung out. So there's lots of opportunities for you to interact with other people. And you get the luxury of choosing when you want to be alone and when you don't. So if you want to go out and spend all day just wandering through the streets on your own and soaking up the city, you can do that. But if you want somebody to join you, it's really easy to find other people who are also travelers who might want to do that with you, or other locals who want to show you their city. And there's a big difference, I think, between being alone and being lonely. And being alone, there's leaves space for that self-reflection, space for you to connect with yourself. And we don't often get that in our day-to-day lives, I think, unless we really intentionally make space for that. And so when you're traveling on your own, there's nothing but you time. And so that can be a real blessing if you choose to look at it that way. The next thing is You won't have fun or you'll be bored if you're traveling by yourself. And I actually have found this to not ever really be an issue. I think the first thing that makes it not an issue is when you're traveling on your own, you get to choose exactly what you do. All of your time is your own. You get to build the itinerary and decide, do you want to spend all day in a museum, or do you want to go shopping? Do you want to eat your way through the city? Pretty much every single minute of the day, you get to decide how you spend it. So you're never going to be sitting around waiting for somebody else to do something that you find really, really boring, like, I don't know, shopping. And that's the one for me. I don't like shopping, but you get to choose exactly how you spend your time. And so you don't have to be bored. Another thing that I really enjoy about being on my own is that you get to show up as whoever you want to be. So it's almost like you get to put on a new hat or a new costume every day and just show up as that person. So you don't have to necessarily, do whatever it is would be your normal routine. And, when you show up, when you travel with your friends or your family, you kind of are the person that they know and they love. But when you're on your own, you can be an adventurous, crazy person, or, if you're usually an introvert, you can decide to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and strike up conversations with people that you meet on the street. It doesn't have to necessarily just be whatever it is that you do in your daily routine. You can stretch and push yourself outside of that, because who are these people? You're never going to probably see them again in your life. So it doesn't make sense. You can be silly, you can be whoever you want to be, and keep it interesting. So it doesn't have to be a boring experience. You can really make as much out of it as you want to. And as long as you continue to push yourself to be interested in everything around you, you'll always have something interesting to do. The next thing that I hear a lot of is you won't be safe. And I totally understand this, because especially if you're a woman, traveling on your own can seem really scary and intimidating. But what I found for myself, and in talking with other women who travel on their own, or even men who travel on their own as well, is most places in the world are no more or less safe than you are at home. I've been to places like Russia or Colombia, Israel, and I've never had really any safety issues. Not to say that it's not possible that that can't happen, but I think a lot of times it's really about what you do in order to make sure that you don't put yourself in a compromising situation, really educating yourself beforehand to make sure you're not in the wrong side of town, or you're not susceptible to some crazy scam that people are running. And if you are traveling for your first time outside outside the country solo, or traveling to another city solo, starting local is a great idea. Or there's lots of countries that are really safe. Japan is a really great one. I think Iceland or Canada, New Zealand, there's lots of countries that have really low crime, and they have a really well-trodden tourist path, so you don't have to worry about running into a lot of issues, because there's a lot of tourists there. They're used to having tourists. There's a lot of security there, so you can feel really, really safe and confident when you're on your trip. The next thing that I often hear people say, the reason that they can't travel on their own is, I'm not single, so I can't do it. And it's funny, because it never occurred to me thinking like, oh, I shouldn't go because my partner is not going. It was like, oh, well, I'm going to go, because if you're not interested in going, then you stay home. But I totally understand. And the more I think about it, it's like, well, I guess some people might, they might want their partner around. But I love my husband. He's great. But sometimes he wants to do things that I don't want to do. And sometimes I want to do things that he doesn't want to do. And the thing that we have established in our relationship is that we have to feed our own spirit. And we have to do the things that light us up and the things that make us really happy and excited in order to show up as the best partners for each other. So if what feeds you is a spirit of adventure, and you want to go out and see the world, or you want to try something new, and your husband or your wife or partner or whoever, they have the spirit of sitting on the couch, then you should go on your own, because you're not going to be able to be the person that you're meant to be, the person that will show up and be happy and great in your relationship, if you're doing the opposite of what moves you. So if you want to go, go. I think it's the best thing for you, obviously. That's my personal feeling, but I've traveled plenty of times, both when I'm in a relationship as well as when I've been single, married, all the gamut. I've done it, and it's not hard to stay in touch and connected when I'm away. There's tons of technology. We use video chatting and WhatsApp, and we stay really, really connected, sharing video updates and all sorts of things. So you don't have to worry about feeling disconnected from your partner. And it's really nice too when you get home that you have all these amazing stories to share. And they say the distance makes the heart grow fonder, I think is the saying. So when you come home to a lot of love. So don't let the fact that you have a partner be something that kills your dream of being able to take a trip. The next thing is it's too expensive. Traveling in general, I often hear this is the reason that people won't take a trip is it's too pricey, it's too expensive. There is a price tag associated with travel, but there's a price tag associated with pretty much anything in life. And so it's really the trade-off of what do you want versus what are you willing to give in order to get what you want. And so first, with travel, I think there's a lot of ways to do it pretty much on any budget, whether that's using Airbnb or hostels or taking like a cruise or something. There's lots of tours that will allow you to share a room if you don't want to have to pay for occupancy minimums. And the great thing is you don't really have to worry about when to schedule something if you're traveling on your own, because if you want to travel during low season and you're traveling by yourself, you can get really awesome deals. You can be able to book your trip as soon as you see the great deal that you want to take advantage of. You don't have to worry about coordinating that with somebody else and their vacation doesn't match with your vacation, and so we can't go on that specific weekend and blah, 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 all of those things. So the nice thing is that when you travel on your own, you can really try to cater your schedule and when you do your trip to when you'll get the best deal for your specific budget and when it works for you to be able to take time away to go on a trip. So I don't think that you have to think about the expense as being a set type of thing. You can really create a trip based on any kind of budget, no matter if it's a solo trip or if you're traveling with 25 people, there's ways to do it on pretty much any budget. The next thing is, this one's actually really funny, and this is one that I have actually struggled with a little bit, is you have to eat alone, or eating alone is really awkward. And I struggled with this even before I ever went on a solo trip, just the idea of like going somewhere and eating by myself. I was like, is everyone gonna look at me like they're really sad for me and take pity on me because I'm that sad person eating all alone? And it's I don't know why is that such an awkward experience to sit and eat by yourself. It was a hard one for me, like walking up and saying a table for one please. It was weird, but I think the thing that really got me over it was just doing it and realizing it wasn't so weird after all. I think I would go eat by myself when I would bring a book, or now we have our phones. You can sit on your phone for hours and hours and keep yourself entertained. But I think the hard part is often just being with yourself, and we're so used to being distracted when we're in our daily lives. It's like, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got my family, I've got work. And then when you go to a restaurant and you sit there and you have to wait for your food or whatever, you just have to be with yourself, and you just have to there's nothing to distract you. And so I think it's confronting to have to do that, and that's probably why I didn't like it, because it was like, oh, I have to just be with Natasha and all of her thoughts and everything that's going on inside of her head. So I think, yes, I totally understand that it can be awkward, but it's not a reason for you not to go on your trip. You can totally get over it. I got over it. I think you just should cherish that time with yourself and savor the moment and savor the meal that you have, every single bite of it, and really to take all of that in, because it's actually really a gift. And you can always make a friend. I always if you sit at the bar, you can talk to the bartender, talk to your waitress, find some locals to hang out with. So eating by yourself is not so bad. And the last thing that people, I think, often will keep them from feeling like they're capable of taking a trip on their own is the sense that you have to be extraordinarily brave in order to do this. And I don't think of myself as a brave person. Other people tell me, oh, that's so brave. But I think it's really a matter of the courage comes from doing it even when you have all of that fear and anxiety. It's not a matter of you're brave and then you do it. It's like you do it and then you're now a brave, courageous person. So you just have to go and the rest will take care of itself. I think the courageous part, yeah, is just like you get there and then you figure it out. So I hope that that's helpful for you guys. If you have more questions, like I said, about traveling on your own or planning a trip solo, where to go, safety, all of those different kinds of questions that might be coming up for you, please feel free to leave me a comment. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I know what travel has done for me, for my confidence, for my relationships, and just building my life into feeling really full. And so whatever it is that might be holding you back, I want you to please feel free to ask as many questions and just think like, what would going on that first trip do for you? What would it do for your confidence? What would it do for your self-esteem? What would it do for your happiness? And if you want to do this, if it's something that you've been thinking about, if you're interested in it, please let's have a conversation. I'd love to talk to you about this topic. You can get in touch with me via Facebook, and we can talk about what it would mean for you to go on one of these trips and how to make it happen. I think 2020 is just the perfect year. I feel like it's such a great year for people to take on new things, like fresh decade, fresh year, to do something really amazing and awesome for yourself. So thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking about travel. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to drop me a line. And if you want to talk about how to take your trip, let's have a conversation. Thank you. Have a great Friday. Bye.